Good afternoon. I'm here with Psychic Liz Cross. She may be melting like a popsicle right now. It's very hot where she is, and it's always hot where I am, so I'm kind of used to it now. But how you doing today, Liz?
I'm hot. That's
So,
okay. Happy July the 4th, everyone.
yeah, happy July the 4th.
Treason Day. This is the Consciousness Transformation Technique CTT channel. And for those of you that are not aware that we have this other channel, you need to go, you need to subscribe. And there's a couple of challenges going on at the moment. Okay. There are over 60 videos on here because we do one CTT group.
Oh, you still there, Liz? Maybe I might have lost you.
One CTT session for 30 days. And I know there's somebody else doing a 60-day CTT challenge where they're doing one CTT session for 60 days. And they're already 3, 4 days in, they're already starting to notice a major, huge shift in their life. So I would just urge you all, this is a free healing tool. It's here for you all to use. And you have our group to thank because they show up every Monday and we do these videos together. Now, if you want to be a part of the group, after you listen to the videos, you like what you hear, you want to come join our group and show up every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central, then please feel free to do so. You do that by joining patreon.com/remote viewing and beyond. So there you go. There's your CTT channel. All right, Mr. Photon, what have you got for us today, please?
Well, today, since everybody's just melting up in the United States, I decided to make things a little hotter, and we're going to talk about saunas and sweat lodges. What the timing? Yeah, it's good timing to talk about that stuff. If you weren't hot enough, we're going to tell you the benefits of getting hot. So maybe you can justify it in your mind. Well, I'm being healthy, hopefully. So we're going to bring in our resident health expert, May Wen Ho. She's helping us on the other side from the spirit world. She was a very established scientist and geneticist and all around, I would say, just very smart individual, someone I really respect, that put all the pieces of the puzzle together more than many people on the earth plane for health and wellness. So we're happy to have her here with us. And the reason that I'm doing, I mean, I always wanted to do, it was in the back of my mind to do stuff on sauna therapy, and sweat lodges and stuff like that, because for those that don't know, it's actually one of the very few things that they've studied that will lower all cause mortality across the board when you do it regularly. So that means that, the people that were studied, I believe they studied men, I think, in Finland for years, like 20 years or something like that. And they all used their sauna, multiple times a week. And they all, reported a lowering in all the chronic diseases, and they lived longer, apparently. So that's one of the very few things that's been studied that it's like it just works. And another would be fasting, which we've also talked about, or lowering your calorie intake. But this is another one where, again, you got to suffer a little bit. Maybe you like the heat, but it does pay off in the end. So I personally had an experience in the past week. Liz and I have already talked about this off air. I actually participated in a ceremonial sweat lodge where I am here, with a very famous and established indigenous leader. And I wasn't really expecting to do it. I kind of did it on a whim. And I was actually kind of blown away by the experience. Like, I knew it would be good for me to do for many different reasons, but the after effects, the couple of days afterwards, it just felt great. It just felt clear. I felt like I had a new perspective on things. I really feel like I cleared out some stuff and just kind of, put the squeegee on the old third eye, as they say. So everything was a little bit clearer for me. So I wanted to investigate that a little bit and talk about, just regular saunas and what the benefits of those are. And yeah, so for those that don't know why saunas are so good, at least one reason why is we have these proteins in our body. They're called heat shock proteins. And it's kind of a misnomer because it's only really should be called a shock protein because you can get this same effect from going into cold water. So it's not just about getting into a hot environment. And you can also be activated by being under sunlight as well. And these proteins, they're basically it's when you're in a stressful environment like the heat or the cold, or under the radiation of the sun. What it does, it creates a hormetic response. So what that means is it's a little bit of stress that makes you stronger. So our bodies, respond to a small amount of stress. For instance, an example would be if you go to the gym and you work out, right? You're just tearing enough of the little muscle fibers that your body can recover over the next couple of days, and you become stronger from that. And in this way, these heat shock proteins, they take on this stress and then they come back stronger. And it's been shown that, well, one of the biggest things that they've studied with these heat shock proteins is that inside the body, there's a process called protein folding. And when that's working correctly, you can lower all the neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. What's the other? Oh my God, I'm kind of blanking out on some of the other ones. But the major, diseases of aging are massively decreased when we have these heat shock proteins activated. It's been shown. So there's lots of different things we can go over here, but let's talk about, so like, some of the most popular things would be like a Finnish sauna. So that's what's been studied. And I've done similar things with this, and I've also gone to Russian banyas back in Canada. So I had some experience before doing this sweat lodge with stuff like that. So can we ask Mei Wen Ho about going into a sauna? So this is really high heat. Like this is like, probably like 150 to like 170 degrees usually when you go on these saunas, these traditional saunas. What is it true that this can lower all cause mortality across the board for people that use it on a regular basis?
This is true. It's very beneficial for health. It's a preventative.
Okay.
Once you're already plagued with a load of health problems, then it becomes dangerous.
Correct. Yeah, you wouldn't want to go in there if you had a serious heart condition or, there's certain things you want to avoid if your body's really weak already. Because it is a stressor to the body. So if the stressor is strong enough, it can kill you, right? So it's no
Yeah.
longer a hormetic stress at that point. It should be a stress that your body can overcome and get stronger from. So some of the benefits of activating these heat shock proteins, let's see here. The benefits are, like I talked about, the neurodegenerative diseases seem to get downregulated. The immune system gets boosted. You can get enhanced muscle recovery and growth if you use it after you work out. It's been shown improved in cardiovascular health, can reduce inflammation and oxidative stress, and again, protects against Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Does she think that it can protect against Alzheimer's if you do this preventatively on a regular basis?
This protects myself. Absolutely. And arthritis.
Oh, okay, arthritis, that makes sense too. And so, for all these benefits that we're listing out here, how often would you have to visit a sauna? Like, is that weekly, multiple times a week, or could you still get benefits from doing it less than that?
How often would you need to visit? Well, every day if you can,
If you can,
even
yeah.
if it's just a few minutes a day.
All right. And as far as like a temperature, a lot of what I'm seeing a lot of people recommend is like 170 degrees. Now, is that true? Do you have to get that hot, or can you do it less hot and get that same effect?
It doesn't need to be 170 degrees. It depends on how long you want to expose yourself and your tolerance level. You can
Right.
actually just do it at like 100 or 110.
Okay.
And, as long as you still feel somewhat comfortable in the sauna, you don't want to do it to the point where you're passing out.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And obviously you got to hydrate before and after you go in there, hopefully with some minerals too. Okay. So the other thing that I read is that, well, you're saying, okay, a minimum of 100 to 110 degrees. You're basically in that kind of weather right now. So does she think that if you go outside, okay, and you're in your bikini top and you're in the sun and it's 110 outside and you're sitting not in the shade, you're in direct sunlight, could you get the same benefits just being outside if the ambient temperature is that hot?
Mr. Photon, I'm completely flattered at this point that you think I would actually wear a bikini.
Well,
I've
I
had
don't know. We're both blind. We
questions.
can't see each other. So
Right. No. Oh dear, is a joke. What about being outside in the, well, where I am, it's very humid too.
mhm.
So what about being outside in the hot weather? Yes, but you have to do it in small doses,
Okay,
right?
what's a small dose? What does she consider a small dose? Like a half hour?
What about a half hour? No, she doesn't even think you need to be out in a half hour. 15 minutes is sufficient.
Okay. Yeah, so I basically have a sauna in my backyard right now because there is no wind if you go in the garden, and I can literally like lie down flat on my back and I am sweating bullets like pretty quickly back there on a hot day. So I've been saying to myself, "Oh, I'm getting my sauna time in," So maybe there's some truth to that. Does she think that me sitting out there where I am right now, for 15 minutes, that's sufficient to get these benefits?
It is, but you also need to factor in recovery time when your body has been exposed to this level of heat.
Okay. All right. So taking a shower, getting into air conditioning or something like that. Is that what she means? And obviously,
Rehydrating and electrolytes.
okay. All right. Here's a question just off the top of my head for a man. Wait, ho. So I'm under the impression that actually there's certain fruits that can actually hydrate you better than just drinking water. So the obvious one would be watermelon. So if
Mm.
I take my watermelon, my cold watermelon, and I'm eating that, do I hydrate better than just drinking water, plain water?
Do you hydrate better? Yes, because it has more electrolytes in it.
Right, naturally. Okay. The other one that I would do would be like a mixture, like make just my own like lemonade or limonade. I mean, we don't have lemons where I am right here, but we have a lot of limes. So I like to make some limonade, I guess you would call it. And I just put a little bit of sea salt in there. Is that also as beneficial as the watermelon in terms of hydrating more than regular water?
Is limeade as beneficial as watermelon? Watermelon seems to be a little bit more beneficial. But what about the limeade with the sea salt? It's still very good. It's close.
Okay. Does she consider the watermelon the best way to rehydrate through like eating a food?
Do you consider watermelon the best way to hydrate? It is one of the best way. Is it because of eating? Yes, because it's absorbing into all areas of the body.
Okay. All right. I need
What
to eat more
about the
watermelon.
sugary aspect of it? Because watermelon is quite sugary. So it's about sugar as well. You have to replace all of those lost electrolytes.
Right. So what I did actually for the sweat lodge that is I made my own concoction of so it was water, sea salt, the lime, and then I put in a little bit of raw honey. What does she think of that?
That's perfect.
Okay. All right. And like I'm not like mainlining the honey in there. Like I'm just putting a tiny bit in there just to, I like I'm it's not doesn't really taste super sweet. So that's kind of like making your own Gatorade. That's a tip.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because you're
So
covering all
how
the
much,
base. Sorry.
sorry, let me ask this. So how much sea salt are you using?
I mean, like I just take a pinch and throw it in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I probably put a bit more because I knew I was going to lose a lot of like minerals, so I probably put more than that. But normally, I would just put a little like pinch in my water. Is
Wow.
usually enough, yeah. And I'm using like the real sea salt that comes from the ocean, like I get it locally here, and it's unrefined. So all they do is they scrape it out of the ocean and they dry it in the sun, but it still has its water content. We did a probe on this before about the salt that comes out of the salt that I recommend for people that's still wet. It retains all the minerals from the ocean. So it's definitely the perfect one to use. And you can buy those at the health food store. A lot of them are called Celtic salts. You can get them from France. They're very fancy. But you can usually get those in the health food stores in the US pretty easily. Anyways, so now we have a way for you to replenish yourself if you choose to do sauna, or if you're like me and you can sit out in your backyard and sweat bullets. But maybe all of you can now if you're in the United States. So okay. The other thing that I want to know about, I guess, is in terms of the heat shock proteins. What does Mei Wen Ho think? Is that the main thing that's giving it all these benefits, or is there something else going on there?
Mostly it is the heat shock proteins.
And I also want to ask about like detoxing. Everybody assumes, okay, you're going to sweat out the chemicals inside you and, like heavy metals and stuff like that. So is that also part of is that like less beneficial? Is the detoxification benefits that you get from doing sauna, or is that primary?
Let's see. Is it primary the detox? No, it's not really the detox. It's the shock.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Your body having to adjust quickly to a new temperature. Now, right. That's interesting to me. And I'll tell you why. Because your body needs to have certain levels of, and what I'm getting very strongly is certain levels of, cold water shock, warm shock, sprinting is also a shock. It's like your body, it's keeping your body's regulatory system flexible.
Right. Okay.
That's what she's talking about.
Okay. All right. So for those that don't live in a hot environment year round, or don't have access to a sauna, every day for maybe you don't have a gym that has a sauna in or whatever, or you don't have a pass to a Russian banya close to you. What is like the minimum effective dose for this stuff? Like, obviously we want to do it every day if we can, but what's the minimum we could do to have some decent benefits from it? Is that like a once a week?
Minimum?
Yeah.
Daily use is best. What is the minimum though? Twice a week.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's switch gears and let's talk about some of the ritualistic kind of sweat lodges and stuff like that. I mean, this has been used in cultures for obviously thousands of years. If you go across the world, all the different cultures have their own version of it. Obviously, the Native Americans in North America have their sweat lodges. In Latin America, this is what they have. These are called temescal. In Russia, they have the banyas, and in Finland, so the Northern Europeans have their own version of this as well. So clearly, it's been a part of our culture for quite a long time, and in obviously the Native American cultures, the Aboriginal cultures here in North America, it's part of their religion, right? It's a spiritual practice. So I'll speak a little bit about what the one that I participated in. You can see on my screen here, this is kind of like an adobe kind of daub. It's made out of, I believe, like stones, rock, or even adobe or clay. And it's supposed to symbolize, if I have this correct, and forgive me if I don't have this correct, it's supposed to symbolize a womb, right? This is the belly of the mother. It's kind of like you're stepping into the belly of the earth. And you are, inside, you are kind of reborn. You go through the birthing process again. So you go through the stress, because giving birth is obviously a stressful experience for both parties, right? And so inside the womb, I don't know what it's like in the Native American tribes, but where I was in Latin America, they were singing and they were having a good time in there. So it was quite noisy. And it was kind of like we were giving contractions to the mother, right? And then at one point we had this, we pushed against the side of the whatever you want to call it, the oven, the belly, right? So we're kind of giving contractions, right? And then when you come out, you are, you're supposedly kind of reborn. It's like this cleansing that's gone through. You've gone through like a physical cleansing, obviously, because you're sweating your butt off in there. And then also there's, you're releasing a lot of stuff as well, energetically. So that's kind of the gist of it. Obviously, I didn't say everything because I'm not an expert at this, and I honestly couldn't understand everything that was said, to be honest. We're working on that. But so from like a spiritual standpoint, what these cultures all seem to be kind of doing the same thing more or less. What kind of benefits are we getting on the spiritual level from going through this physical and emotional cleansing?
It's an altered state of consciousness.
Okay, so is the consciousness actually leaving the body like we would if we took psychedelics?
Yes, and it's gathering information and bringing it back.
Okay. I personally, when I was inside, I didn't feel like I had an altered state of consciousness when I was inside. But when I came out for the first round, I laid down on the ground and they covered my face with like a cold, wet towel. And so my eyes were closed and I actually started to see visions behind my eyes, but I felt like I was still in control the whole time. Like I didn't feel like I was hallucinating really, like, like I didn't feel like I had an out of body experience or anything, or that I was tripping on hallucinogenic drugs really at the end of the day. So I know some people do have experiences where it is, they're reaching that altered state of consciousness at a high level. For me, I still felt like I was in control the whole time. So
That's
can we ask, is that true? Did my consciousness leave?
it did, it gathered information and it brought it back to you. So when you
Interesting.
started to, recover from that experience, that's when you became more aware of the information that it had gone and gathered. I don't feel that you completely lost your sense of consciousness. It still stayed somewhat attached. And that's what people want to do, right?
Mm.
For me as well, I don't like to not be in control. Because when you're into hallucinogenics and all that, you may have no control over the experience that you're about to have. Some people have positive experiences, a lot of people don't. So, this is maybe one way that somebody can have that similar type of experience without having to take, drugs or substances in order to, lose control, detach that conscious mind. Now, how long were you in this sweat lodge for?
Well, I did 2 rounds. The first round seemed a lot longer. I would guess, because I have no idea. You're in there, it's completely dark. It's like, you're under stress, so it's hard to gauge time. I would guess we were in there for like a half hour, maybe, the first
Geez.
round.
Okay.
And then the second round seemed a lot quicker, maybe like 15, 20 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And were you moving around in there? Were you laying down?
I started off, so how it works is you can do anything that you want, but it's going to be hotter in certain areas. So standing up is the hottest position you could be in. And then sitting against the back of the wall is pretty hot. And then if you get down on the floor, that's cooler. So if you lie down on the floor is cool. And then if you move to the center, that's the coolest spot. I stayed at the back wall the whole time and I stood up once. I didn't find it was too challenging for me, just because I've had experience with cold therapy, which I think helps. And I've done other, like, I mean, I live in a hot environment already. And like I say, I sit in my backyard and sweat bullets, hopefully trying to get the benefits of being in a sauna. So I think I did pretty good. I'm pretty resilient all around. So I tried to challenge myself a little bit by staying against the back wall. So yeah, there's different, and obviously if you can't take the heat and you need to get out, you can signal and say that you need to get out and you can get out. There's just a little kind of like towel along the front that kind of keeps the light out. That's all that it is. And there's an oven connected to the outside of the one that I was at. I don't know if you can't, I guess you can't see it if this is the same style. It looks similar. And they burn, wood in that oven, and then that's connected to the inside. And so they can basically just like open that up to let more heat in. And then they have I'm not sure what kind of tree they were using, but it's like a branch with leaves on it, similar to what the Russians do, where they spin the branch above their head to get the heat like circulating everywhere. And then sometimes if you want to, they'll hit you with the leaves, which I'm not sure what that's supposed to symbolizes, but they do that in the Russian culture as well. Yeah. So, okay. So besides the obvious, physical dangers, if your body is not resilient enough to handle the extreme extremities of these heat, on like an emotional, spiritual level, is there danger not being, just like there is with psychedelics where, well, my number one thought was, and I was thinking about when I was in there, I was like, oh no, everybody's releasing all of this negative energy, and I'm sitting here probably absorbing it. I tried to say a little bit of like, protection for myself, but because it was done in, done in another language, I couldn't understand what they were doing to like everything. I can understand some things. So I don't know what their process was of grounding and protecting, if there was any really at all. So was I taking on a bunch of other people's stuff, or was I protected in that situation?
Right, because everything is an energy exchange. So were you
Yeah.
protected? No, you were wide open.
Oh boy.
That's a problem because if people are going in there for, the fact that you're doing it with other people, so, if people are going in to heal, an energy exchange has to take place. This is the same thing we found with the EE systems, right?
Yeah,
The
right.
EE
Yeah.
systems were a problem because people were doing energy exchanges with one another in the same room. Similar concept. Now they were grounded and protected. The people that you were with, I feel like they asked for somebody to come in and protect them, um, possibly like an archangel or some sort of protection. But it's really, really important. You have to dictate what you want to do. You have to say that, so you got to ground and protect. How do we do that? You wrap the tree roots etherically around your ankles, pulling you down to the earth's surface. Then you're bringing over the white light over the top of you, and you're sending that light down into the tree roots. Okay. That's protect you from entities.
Right.
You, does it protect you from energy exchange? No. At that point, it's not protecting you from energy exchange. So you would then need to set the intention, just like we do in the CTT, to dispose of the energy properly.
Right. Okay. So you got to transmute after you're done, I guess, or is this before you
Well,
do?
yeah, well, you have to say exactly what you want to do with that energy. So you would say, okay, under no circumstances am I to take on anybody's negative energy. And then you may want to call in a spirit team to come into the dome with you, and also activate them to take that energy. Now, my thing that I take that energy off of the earth plane. I don't want it hanging around on the earth plane. I transmute it elsewhere. And then once it's transmuted into white light positive karma, then it can come back, right? But as far as me, my method, I take it off the earth plane. I think for me, what I know, it's too dangerous to leave it on the earth plane. It can, because the dark energy needs a host and it moves quick. So I don't want it on the earth plane. So I call in a spirit team to take the energy away off of the earth plane.
Okay. So how about this? What do you think of this? So if you make the decision to do something like this, it's probably best to not leave yourself in the hands of whoever's leading it. You can take your protection into your own hands and do the process which Liz just said, or possibly do some CTT beforehand to kind of ground and protect yourself, and then call on your spirit teams and transmute all that stuff that's going to happen inside the ceremony. Would you think that would be wise?
Yes, I think it's a must.
Okay.
Okay. It's even with these ayahuasca ceremonies, are you really protected? A lot of times, these dirty shamans, they want to, you know, they want to be powerful. So while you are in this hypnotized, sort of altered consciousness state, they're putting in energy channels into your energy field, not you specifically, but this has happened so many times where they're putting in energy channels into your energy field so that they can siphon off whenever they need to. And that connection is very difficult to break. In fact, just recently, I had to do a CTT session to break someone free of an ayahuasca experience where they dieted a tree. And when you diet a tree, that's another process that they do, and you're connecting with this particular tree. Well, the shaman had hooked up his energy to this tree and used the tree as a conduit, or a tool to siphon the energy from the beings that dieted the tree. Now you can only imagine the thousands of people that have dieted these trees, right? You have to know what you're doing, folks, right? You really do. Because when you try to break free of some of these activities, not saying you specifically, Mr. Photon, but especially with the ayahuasca mushroom psychedelic experiences, a lot of times these people come through and they're holier than thou and they're earthy and they're, I would never kill a fly, I'm a Buddhist. But actually, they have very different intentions, and they know that by you having an altered state of consciousness, they can then hook their energy cords into you. Now that's worst case scenario. Does everybody do that? No, not necessarily. But I'm just saying, when you go into these sort of situations, these altered states of consciousness, you have to be very, very protected. So that method that I just gave Mr. Photon, right? That is a good protective mechanism. If you want to know more about it, just like how we showed you the CTT videos, the CTT channel at the beginning, we always open with that sort of protection for all of our sessions, and it seems to work just fine.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess I did a little bit haphazardly this time. I set a little bit of protection for myself, but I'll probably be doing it again. I think I've had a beneficial experience, but I will be doing with that process next time for sure. Do you think I came out unscathed on that, or did I pick up any hitchhikers?
Oh my God. No, you came out unscathed. Everybody that you were with has good intentions, okay? I don't
Okay.
feel that there's bad intentions associated with these sweat lodges. I'm speaking more of these ayahuasca psychedelic experiences, not this, but inadvertently, just like the EE systems, you will do an energy exchange in that room if you're not careful, right? That's why you need to know how to protect yourself whenever you're going into some sort of group environment, group healing environment. Very, very important when particularly when it's around these ceremonies. Now, if you're just sitting in a hot sauna at the gym and there's other people in there, no, that's not really anything to worry about. This is specifically a spiritual experience that Mr. Photon did.
Okay, so then my next question is more on the physical realm, but also on the energetic. So we know, and we've probed this before, that we have biofields around us, right? So we are constantly exchanging information with our environment in the physical level, the aura, if you will. That's what it's been traditionally called, but it's actually an electromagnetic force that exists within us and around us. And so when we're in this, close proximity to each other, it's super hot, right? All this infrared energy is in there. Are we, I mean, the obvious thing on the physical level is we're all breathing in our each other's, everything, right? Like how much of an exchange is going on there on the physical level? How dangerous is that?
Well, we're just like it's an information superhighway, right? We're just sending, receiving all the time. And oftentimes that stems from the soul, the subconscious. It's all energy. Yeah, you can pick up things very easily if you are extremely sensitive to absorbing energy.
Right. If someone, someone's energy field, I'm pretty sure we probed this before, that if they have a weakened field around them, then they can be putting off the energy that you can take in and you can kind of get sick from that. Right. But if your energy field is strong enough, you have more resilience against somebody's weakened field. So if you put two weak fields in one of these things, a lot of people will come out of these experiences and they will probably have a what quote unquote detox reaction. Now, how much of it is that their own self detoxing heavy metals, and how much is it in taking in somebody else's information that's also sick? Is that a possibility as well?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
Especially if you have the intention to do so, right?
Oh,
Those of you that just go, I've met so many people. I'm a healer. I'm a healer, Liz. I'm a healer. I heal people. I heal. Oh, okay. What exactly do you do? Well, I put my hands over them or I focus on them and I send them good energy. Okay. That's great. And it does work. Wonderful. But what you actually end up doing is you'll make yourself very, very sick because an energy exchange has to take place. Where does that energy go? It goes to you. You will absorb that illness.
right. Okay, switching gears a little bit, I forgot to ask about a different kind of sauna. This is something that actually people can have in your home. I actually built something similar to this when I was in Canada. Obviously, don't need it here as much, but it's like a tent that you can build, and I built it with just like reflective material. But this is one you can buy already kind of prefabricated. And the thing that creates the heat are these little infrared heat lamps. So believe it or not, these are pretty similar to the ones if you've ever gone to a restaurant, they'll have like heat lamps sitting over top of the food to keep it warm.
Mm.
These are like a little bit better because they are tuned to a specific frequency, I believe, but essentially they're probably not much more expensive. And you could build something like this yourself if you wanted to, or you can buy one of these fabrication devices. So I'm not promoting any specific website. We're not promoting any specific website, but this is one that does make them. And so that these guys don't actually have to get as hot in order for you to get the benefits, supposedly. So because it's an infrared light, it actually can penetrate quite deep into the tissues without getting hot. So it's actually like almost heating you up from the inside out in a way. So what does Mei Wen Ho think of this versus the extremely hot saunas, which we were talking about before, like the Finnish sauna and the banya and like the one you might have at your gym? This specific type of infrared sauna, is it better? Is it worse? Can you get different benefits?
It's different.
It's different.
Um,
Okay.
it's not as effective as the actual sauna, but it's better than nothing.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought I would, promote something that maybe is a little bit cheaper because these are affordable enough that you could make one and put it in your own house. I got benefit from the one that I had, so I wouldn't discourage people against doing it. But again, it's probably not as effective as doing the traditional saunas.
I
All
have to
right.
ask a question.
Sure.
So for me, the traditional heat saunas, I can't stand them, right? I don't like it. I don't like how I feel. I can't normally stay in there but a couple of minutes. But I can go into a steam sauna, a steam room, and I'm fine. That doesn't seem to bother me. So,
All
what
right.
is more beneficial? A steam sauna? No. See, she just told me no. It's the traditional sauna is the best. But is the steam sauna better than nothing? It's still beneficial, but your body doesn't work as hard in the steam sauna as it does in the other saunas, what she just said.
Yeah, 'cause it's all about humidity in the steam sauna. So it's not the other one's considered a dry sauna. So it's really taxing you. much more than the
Right.
steam. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, you know what though? What I like the most about the steam sauna or steam showers is if I have a cold brewing, you know how when you feel like you're coming down with something, listen, I've got kids here. We get sick every other week. Those of you that have kids, you know what it's like. They go to these schools. These schools are like cesspits. They come home, they bring all their germs with them. Everybody's sick. Everybody's catching each other's colds, right? But I did notice when I was using the steam room or the steam sauna on a frequent basis, the second I had a cold brewing, I would get in there and I would like steam it out, and then I was fine. I felt great afterwards.
Okay, well, let's ask what was the mechanism for Liz there? Was it the heat shock proteins or was that, the eucalyptus that might have been in the steam?
Oh, was that the heat shock proteins? No. Um, the body did raise temperature, so that was good. That helped to kill off some of the virus, the cold. But then it was disposed of. And I'm saying, what do you mean? Like you sort of sweat it out, you detox that cold.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
breathing in the steam, because most of the time she's telling me colds affect the nasal passages, the throat, the lungs, the chest, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Yep.
was a direct hit.
Cool. All
So
right.
let's test this. What if somebody's in a traditional sauna? It still has the same effect. No, I don't know because I haven't been with a cold in a traditional sauna. Like I said, I don't like them
Oh,
too
I
much.
heard some in there that day. They were I could hear them sniffling pretty hard.
What
So
in your sweat lodge?
yeah, there were some people where it got to a point where they just, just sniffling really hard. Yeah, like you could tell the mucus was like, being like dislodged from their sinuses. I did not experience that.
Oh, I see. But actively, though, when they were going in, you didn't notice that they had
No,
cold.
they all seemed completely fine.
So it's a real cleanser then. So let's ask this question. Is exposing your body to heat if you have an excess of inflammation or an excess of phlegm or what does that it does keep the inflammation down.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you'll definitely notice if you have any sort of pain when you get out of the sauna, it will be definitely gone if you've stayed in there long enough.
Wow.
Super good for that. Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be more limber as well. You'll notice coming
Hmm.
out. All right. Well, I think that's a good probe for everyone. Yeah, we could probably wrap this one up here unless Mei Wen Ho has anything more she wants to share with us on the benefits of being in the heat.
It's just good for the joints. It's good for the body all around, but you have to make sure you don't overdo it. And of course, as always, this was is never to be construed as any sort of medical advice ever, ever, ever. Psychic entertainment only, right?
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's wrap this one up. Thanks very much, Liz. Thanks to everybody out there. I have a tip jar. If you find this stuff useful or interesting, please consider leaving me a tip. I'm working hard on the Discord for y'all and coming up with probes, and I much appreciate any support. I also have health consults of my own where I deal with environmental health. So things like light, the light that you're seeing, you're not seeing, the air that you're breathing, how you're breathing, the movement that you're doing or not doing. Obviously, diet is very important. I touch on that and much, much, much more. So I have a little bit of a different perspective than a lot of people because I'm coming at it from an energy actual point of view. I focus in on the mitochondria, which make the energy of our body. We have some great probes on that if you want to watch that as well. So if you're interested in that, you can get a hold of me on my email, which is digitalfreedomtactics@protonmail.com. Unless there's anything else, I think we can wrap it up.
No, thank you for sharing your experience with us. Wow.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Thank you.
So did we.